Okay, so for today, we'll be discussing chapter 12, which is about parenting in blended family system. Family systems, families grow in many different ways in different groups to form blended families. Some blended families are formed by single parent that remarries, fostering or adopting children, or a reconstituted or blended family is basically when um, that typically brings together children who may have had different families of origin or adults who have been married previously and they have children from previous relationships. Okay, with the characteristics of blended families, most of the time the problems and the challenges facing in blended families are different from those of other family systems also. The adults usually face the usual task of establishing an intimate relationship as a newly married couple, and the ability of new blended family systems also survive and cope with the challenges that come along with much of the time and resources of the system, especially in the early years of the remarriage. Now, co- cohabitation usually occurs more commonly among the divorced adults um, than the never married adults, and it basically is to test a prospective spouse's parental skills of his or her child. And it is also said to be known that more women are more likely to get remarried if they're basically Caucasian. So Caucasians have the higher amount of remarriages. Now, when children are involved in a new family system is created instantaneously without the benefit of gradually adding new members. The remarriage of adults may occur at a time when the necessities and tasks of the lifespan of the blended family are incompatible with the development needs and tasks of the adults, and ex spouses and ex grandparents can continue to have input into and have an influence on the new blended family system. Um, as I said before, the probability of most marriages is, high among Caucasians and is there's least likely among African American women. Remarriage is more likely if divorced women live in communities with lower rates of male unemployment, poverty, and welfare interdependence. People who are also widowed, they also are usually in late adulthood and are less likely to remarry because of their advanced age. The remarriages also are considered to be high risk relationships, as they have an either greater chance of ending in divorce as well when couples usually remarry. Couples who also have a stable functioning remarriages report having higher satisfaction and greater pride in their new relationship than the first marriages. Many men and women are said to remarry about 10 years older when they remarry individuals. The individuals, they're about 10 years older than when they first married. So the age basically increases more than likely when they marry. The ethnic group identity also influences remarriages rate as well. It also said that more Caucasians just overall, not just with women, but overall they tend to remarry more than African Americans or Hispanics. So that's a known fact as well. Now, also, researchers have described 7 characteristics that are with blended families that may distinguish them from the first marriages families. When children are involved in a new family system, as I said before, it is created instantaneously without the benefit of gradually adding new members. Um, where it says here also, it continues over to the next page, leaving off with, because those 3 are already on the page. So it continues over with the desires and expectations of adult marriage partners may not be fulfilled by the new marriage relationship in the blended family. Most of the time, there, when those adults remarry, they tend to anticipate that the new relationship will overcome, things that have happened in the previous marriage. The fifth one is when both children and guilt that interfere with the, no, when both children and adults may have mixed feelings of allegiance and guilt that interfere with the effective blended family systems. Children may become, more confused on loyalty based on things that have happened, more in the past, and the adults also may have mixed feelings just because things didn't work out in the past, also as well. Number six is when children may not be willing participants in the new blended family system. Although the adults may consult children about the potential partner, um, they did not seek a child's approval before deciding to remarry, and typically because the children are not very, supportive in that, and they don't want things to change. Number seven is when all blended families members experience role confusion. A major task of this system is to establish new patterns. So, the task for the family system is difficult among the blended families because of just the past history. So, that's a thing that they also deal with in that stage as well. Okay, challenges in blended formation. Blended family system formation involve different structures than in first marriage systems. The blended families formation may challenge the adults to develop an intimate relationship in areas of shared interests and values and habitual patterns that guide interactions and conflict resolution. Merging different family cultures and identities as the new system establishes new roles and patterns. Roles and patterns. Um, Basically, the problems that also that occur in blended family systems are unique, and the systems also are a level of stress or a greater level of stress than they may have encountered in the first marriage. There are also a few problems that are linked to the following. That also, when blended families are created, there's a greater and higher risk of them experiencing more levels of stress than what they experienced in the first marriage. One of them is merging different family cultures and identities as the new system establishes roles and patterns. Developing new models of distributing time, energy, material, goods, finances, and affection. Establishing new bonds of loyalty to the blended family system while learning to manage loyalty bonds to former family systems. Dealing with marital conflict and children's misbehavior. The greatest challenge to the survival and effective, healthy functioning of a blended family system may be overcoming the obstacles and resistance encountered in adapting previously established patterns and styles. Most of the time, when a first marriage couple divorces, they usually create the two single parent family systems that most prominently affect the children who become members of those two different binuclear families. Also, at the beginning of a blended family's life, the step parent at first seems to be an outsider until things between the biological parent and his or her children gets better, and everything basically gets better over time. And also, Patricia Papernow developed a model that basically describes the blended family formation, and she depicts that three major stages involve each of the substages within that time. Now, the stages there explained on page 271, starting on 271 to page 273, and they're also described in the PowerPoint as well. And I'll go over them as well in the PowerPoint. Now the first stage one is the fantasy stage, where it says it involves commonly holds unrealistic expectations that they hope will be fulfilled in the family system. The second one for stage two is the assimilating of the new adults. When biological parents attempt to merge step parent into the biological family, but usually cannot accomplish this goal. And guys, there are also a few examples under each one that explains it in detail. It'll just take me a good while to go through like the other. They're like examples under each one, so you may want to go on there and look at the examples in the book that are on the page also. The step parent may notice that he or she is an outsider and discovers feelings of jealousy, resentment, and inadequacy awareness. Many blended families stagnate at this stage in their development because of the of difficulties in communication among all of the parties. Mobilization. The step parent's role in initiating changes intensifies at this point. A showdown is inevitable, and if the changes and compromises cannot be made, there is considerable risk that the blended family will dissolve via the divorce of the adults. Action. The changes and adaptations may be implemented on a larger scale to form the new blended family. Contact. This stage serves to um, solidify the actions taken to forge a new blended family. And resolution, which is the last stage, stage seven, the new blended family achieves a new identity. Now, co parenting and blended family roles. Co parenting agree to take on the parenting tasks together in blended family systems. There may be two co-parenting dyads at play. The first refers to the biological parents who have to find ways to co-parent successfully from bi-nuclear households, and the second one refers to two persons fulfilling parental roles within the blended families, of whom one will be a biological parent and the other will be a step parent. Co-parenting also has a big success rate if the best interests of the children are considered, if parental systems can maintain the parental hierarchical boundaries. Co-parenting, it also it's basically it'll work out great. Co-parenting works out best for a lot of people. I've seen that it works out great for them also. Now, within co-parenting, the step parent's role is distinct from, basically, is different from biological parent. It is different because it has a high degree of role ambiguity. The beliefs also in the negative stereotypes according to someone's current family system are also things that can tear apart, those co-parenting families. Individuals who currently live in single parent family systems and blended families tend to hold less negative opinions than those living in first marriage and families. Studies also find that parents are expected to share equally in the parental status of the new family system, although expectations can contradict reality. As we have seen in other situations, family systems also tend to resist any change in the current homeostasis or functioning. And also, it is also known as some remarriages are reported to be happier and more successful than first marriages, when most of the problems associated with the blended families functioning are related to parented children from former marriages. Okay, with um, stepmothers are um, associated with the step parent role expectations. And sometimes there are also, those myths that are basically false myths that make the roles more difficult sometimes in stepmother's roles. It's basically when a family in which the mother role is filled by a stepmother, and they have more problems than those of with a stepfather may have. One of the more difficult myths is that a stepmother is bad and she requires instant love from the stepchildren. So those are some of the myths. To counter the first myth, the stepmother may overcompensate by contributing too much to the relationship between herself and her stepchildren. The characteristics of successful adaptation of the stepmother role include gaining support from outside as well as inside their family system, positive attitude, the use of communication styles, and working toward the quality of the marital relationship. Um, Most of the time, it's known that more school age children and adolescents have greater difficulties in a relationship with the stepmother, and most stepmothers also often believe that they become more successful when their new identity as a stepmother can expect to experience difficulties in relating with the stepdaughter more than with the stepson. Now, within the stepfather phase, the stepfather and the stepchild relationship, it is said to be at risk for almost 2 years following the remarriages. But the advantages for some stepfathers is to forge new identity impression when establishing a relationship with his spouse's children, and there are also some disadvantages as well. Stepfathers are less likely to be authoritative in parenting styles as compared to biological fathers. Establishing disciplinary patterns and using controls related to stepchildren's behavior are often prime problem areas for stepfathers. Disagreement with the spouse may occur over how the stepfather disciplines the stepchildren, and the satisfactions of being a stepfather. A few are related to the development of a positive relationship with stepchildren, the quality of communication between the stepfather and the stepchildren, the support of the biological mother in the stepfather's disciplinary actions with children. And they also may expect difficulties if they insist on implementing their own style of discipline than what has been established by the biological mother, and they may expect to experience some financial difficulties in relation to support of their own biological children to that needed for the stepchildren. They also may have better relationships with their stepchildren if they do not have a relationship with their own children. So those are the kind of the benefits of being a stepfather as well. Now with the step grandparents, the legal status of step grandparents, it isn't clear. More step grandparents are more likely to view young stepchildren as a welcoming into their family when the adult remarries. The stepchildren also live with the adult child. The likelihood of relationship between those and between the step grandparents and step grandchildren, it basically increases. And the quality of the step grandparent step grandchild relationship appears to be more influenced to a greater extent by the adult child than by any other factors that are exclusive to the step grandparent and step grandchild relationship. Research also suggests that step grandparents can improve their relationship with their step grandchildren by increasing their active participation, including establishing a closer relationship to their adult child and increasing their visits with the step grandchildren and family gatherings during the holidays. So that can increase the quality, of life and the quality of their relationship with the step grandparents. Now, with the step grandchildren and step siblings, researchers report that in terms of well-being from step families fare neither better than nor worse than children from single-parent families. The children are expected to make adjustments when biological parents divorce and later remarry. These adjustments are stressful and they affect school performance, behavior, and social emotional factors. And the children, especially the girls who grow up in the blended families, they tend to reject their stepfather and leave the blended family at an early age than those who grow up in the single parent or two parent households. So that is known. Um, Researchers also report that children from step families they fare neither better nor worse than children from single parent families in terms of well being. The relationship among those step siblings it also is more complex when blended families are formed. So it's kind of more complex when those blended families are formed for them. Um, yeah, as I said before, they are more complex. Problems observed in the biological sibling, such as rivalry and jealousy, can become more intense among, when the step siblings are around. And it's not unusual for the coalitions to form, creating that my children are being mistreated by your children. Sometimes that's a major thing in, those type of relationships. Um, as stated by the parents, one child is is favored after another child. Sexual tensions can exist when step siblings are pubertal or adolescent, and step siblings can also develop strong relationships where mutual support can be found and friendships can flourish. But they can also have excellent, sibling relationships as well. Now, with the ex spouses and the ex in laws, it's basically typical for them to feel displaced and alienated when the divorce transforms the relationship. And it's basically not uncommon for their spouses to experience the feelings of jealousy and anger and competition, as exes. Also, exes may harbor similar feelings and resentment in other situations. Ex spouses and ex in laws collaborate to make the situation tolerable and even um, amicable. Also, the challenges and adjustments in blended families, the ability to of blended families to adjust to their new status and roles and patterns depends on three central themes. The three themes are giving up unrealistic expectations to the family system, clarifying the feelings and needs for each family member, committing to new rules, roles, boundaries, and routines. Blended families are also they must accomplish several tasks to successfully transition from early disillusionment to total commitment to the new family system. And there are a few that are explained here. The biological parent and the step parent, they have to determine the long range goals for the organization of the new family system. It's also helpful for the remarried couples to agree that the biological parent is in charge and enforcing the limits of his or her biological children. The step parent and the stepchild bonding may need assistance, to form and grow better. Adjustment on becoming new family systems is facilitated when the blended family develops its own rules, boundaries, and traditions. And also, both parents in the blended family system need to develop and maintain constructive patterns of interaction with those ex spouses as well. There are also, different type of ways that can help assist. There are sources of assistance that can help assist the relationships of blended families. There may be like, some self-help books, publications, support groups, and family therapy. Any of these things can basically help, the relationship of blended families in any type of way. So I did enjoy this chapter because this chapter is one, that we may see quite often. There are a lot of, step parent and children relationships. And there's a lot of that we have going on now in the world. And it's just, very important for everyone to make the adjustments in the proper manner, in the proper way, so everyone can feel entitled and can feel connected. So I did enjoy this chapter a lot. That wraps up chapter 12, and you all have a great day.